constitutional human rights guarantees. Constitutional and legal forms for recognizing and protecting human rights manifest shortcomings that result from the continuing conflicts with traditional cultural definitions and from traditional and cultural practices. One possible explanation for this may be that the development of national human rights regimes in Africa have not been grounded on cultural traditions. Therefore, we must seek further explanations in the continent's history. As much as we may say that the constitution is the highest rule of law, inkinga ibe sekutheni wona lama laws lawa awazange akhelwe for the context of Africa in the first place. So now, since angakhelwanga on the grounding and on the link with traditional cultures and traditional customary law, iyona inkinga yenza ukuthi ingabi ne guarantee ye way forward. Because when we created maybe the national anthem, when we created a customary law, what we did was consult Dutch Roman law, we consulted Anglo law, we consulted these other different types of justice systems that were not related to Africa. Now, it's in a when we find these laws that are said to protect us are the very same laws that say that we need to do away with our customary law. Are we together? Cool. To understand the social and the political dynamics of the human rights experience in Africa, it is necessary to begin in the colonial setting. It is within the colonial setting that the contemporary idea of legal rights as entitlements which individuals hold in relation to state first emerged. In his study of human rights in Africa, Claude Welch argues that a number of political constraints on the exercise of human rights which currently manifest in African states can be attributed directly to the imposition of external rule. This is what I was talking about. I was talking about the fact that Usu Welch inkinga enkulu eyenzekile ukuthi thina safike saba much more politically active than we were traditionally and culturally active. So now, since we lacked cultural and traditional activism, we enforced political activism. And since I had said before, political activism was foreign to us, we then ran to the states that already had a rich political history. And then we adopted those political values and those legal systems into our own context, into our own states. Then, therefore, now beginning to contribute towards a conflict with our customary law and this constitution, which is totally foreign. We imposed a foreign law on top of our own states, which now brings about a confusion as to what it is that we need to follow, customary law or legal law. And this legal law, we do agree, as much as it does have benefits, it is beneficial from a Eurocentric point of view. Okay. Itige, he identifies three main features of colonial rule that tended to hinder human rights. Number one, basic shapes of states themselves were the consequence of European administrative convenience or imperial competition. As the invasion or the introduction of white people in South Africa in the first place, there was no such thing as a territory or borders in Africa. What's the number one? Inkinga yabasekuthenini wafika these foreign people basitshela thina ukuthi thina as a country sihamba sigcine la. Mase sekugcine lapho kuzoba yenye country ihamba igcinile. So these geographical borders or these geographical states were made for the convenience of imperial rule. When we look at the inception of the introduction of white people in Africa, they came in the Cape. Why? Because Cape Town was the perfect point for a refreshment station. When you look at, excuse me, when you look at the fact that you will be talking about slave trade. The slave trade had a triangle. It was first kusuka abelungu lapha beze Africa, babesuka Africa bazoya eBrazil. Babefika eBrazil, they are trading with black Africans. Babesuka from trading with black Africans, they will take whatever it is they received from those white people and they go back to Europe with what they received. It come up to be a triangle. So now when you look at Africa, in Gelesi shaped ngayo, it was for the convenience of this slave trade to continue. Are we together? So for the continuation of slave trade, there had to be borders so that there will be conflicts between the French and the Portuguese and the whites and the English and whatever else that came in Africa to colonize Africa. And then you find that ngoba sekuba khona ama conflicts, irregardless of the fact that they try to not to have conflict as white supremacists, they then came to the conclusion, okay, mase sengifikile mina in a certain point of Africa, mina ngizoyiqamba le ndawo at the bottom of Africa to be South Africa. And abantu abazophatha la kuzoba firstly the Dutch, kube ama-English, the British rule. And then you'd find that in neighboring countries, okay, since usuyizakhelile wena ibhoda yakho, okay, awubu ukuthi-ke mina Portuguese sizophatha la. And then you find that the language, even spoken now in most African countries, is either it's French or Portuguese. They don't know their original language. Why? It was for the convenience of colonial rule, or the colonizers who came here to increase and to make it easy for them to trade off the African people. Basuke Europe, there's Africa, by South America, but New in North America, baphindile England or wherever else they came from. You understand? Okay. So now, colonialism created states in which the promotion of self-government was at most the minor priority for the ruling powers until the last years of the colonial interlude. Little opportunity existed even after independence for redrawing the boundaries, hoping to set the stage of political conflicts and later attempts at secession. Sakhulunywa ngani ke la? Uthiwa lama boundaries vele ayisakhela ukuthi vele sebaxabana bodwa. And then kwakonyuka kakhulu i-need yama boundaries. Why? Because they saw ukuthi okay, manje since ngathi i-slave trade sesoba abolished, we actually find Africa to be a very rich place. Manje sekubangwa ini? Sekubanga umhlaba wona qobo lwayo ukuthi it actually carries things such as oil, diamonds and gold. So manje sesibangani? Asabanga ukuthi ke sithola free labor, sesibanga free labor now lo mhlaba le free labor ihlala kuwona. Okay. Mayihlala kuwona lo mhlaba le sesiyamove on manje usisithola ukuthi thina colonial rulers sesobanika our own cultures, sesobanika our own way of life in order for them to submit to us and for us to make it easy to rule over them. That is the first point. The boundaries that were made in Africa made it easy for colonialization. It made it easy for slave trade. Okay. Number two, uthi an authoritarian framework for local administration was installed, reducing most indigenous rulers to relatively minor cogs in the administrative machinery and leaving until the terminal days of colonialism the creation of the near democratization. Kukhulunywa ngani la? Kukhuluma ngokuthi i-administration yase-Africa yayiba distorted ngamabomu. Ngoba it only became at the end where the administration, each and every country had to have a political administration, meaning that yayingekho a set government that ruled during colonialization. So in that way, since there was no set government, it meant that black people did not have a set school, did not have a set hospital, did not have a set place to actually move around. So the administration, it was a mechanism to actually move forward the white people who are there and not the black people. And it was left until later on when colonialization was about to be diminished. Do you understand that point? Because firstly it was the boundaries and then it was the governance itself that was made to be distorted in African countries. Okay. You seem confused. Was that right? Was that right? Are you still okay? Are you sure? Hey. Was that right? Okay. For number 3 now, Uti, the European law codes were introduced and widely applied, notably in the urban areas, while traditional legal precepts were incompletely codified, relegating to an inferior position in civil law and applied particularly in rural areas. Sikhuluma ngama-code ke la, ama-code ani lawo, akhumbula ama-postal codes, sikhuluma ngani, sikhuluma ngokuthi le area le sibiza ngale area le, therefore if we need electricity, if we need water, if we need iy'ncwadi ukuthi zizithina, nansi postal code, nansi address, igama lomgaqo. You understand? So in urban areas, what happened is that white people make sure that administrative was right. But then when you look at rural areas, even till this day, awekho lawo ma-codes. Uzothola ukuthi makumele ubhalele incwadi, uzosho isonto eliseduze noma isikole esiseduze ukuze uyithole wena leyo ncwadi obhalelwe yona. So kuthiwa kona kwakwenziwe ngamabomu so that basic supplies were not received in these rural areas. Okay, so firstly it was the boundaries, secondly it was administration, now it was the codes, so that basic amenities were not easily received. Are we together? Okay. Masatsuga utiwa legal recognition and protection of rights in the colonial states of Africa was belated and inadequate. Utinga. Legal administration, legal recognition and protection of rights in the colonial states of Africa was belated and inadequate, meaning that the recognition of law in these African states, it was made to be late, or it only came later on, and it was inadequate. Even when it did come later on, it was not in a set standard, just like those areas in the white states or the urban areas. Okay, Maseti, with constitutions hastily created in independence being in many cases the